When you look at industrial waste, most of us just see, well, a liability, right? Something to get rid of. But what if a supply chain could actually think for itself? Today, we're going to dive into a company called 905WOOD and how they're architecting what they call a sentient supply chain. It's a system that's literally designed to turn messy, chaotic industrial waste into a super valuable, predictable asset. Let's break down how they're pulling this off.
Okay, so it all kicks off with a massive ticking clock. People in the industry are calling this the regulatory cliff. Starting around 2026, Southern Ontario's entire waste management industry is staring down a potential systemic collapse. We're talking new levies, looming landfill bans. The old way of just dumping stuff is about to become legally and financially impossible. This isn't just some small problem, it's a full-blown crisis, and it demands a totally new way of thinking. And that crisis brings us to the real heart of the challenge, this huge chasm they call the quality gap. See, on one side, you've got the completely chaotic, unpredictable world of construction waste. And on the other, you have the incredibly precise, almost surgical demands of the new bioeconomy. Industries that need super clean, organic material to create sustainable products. You just can't feed raw chaos into a system that needs near-perfect purity. The two are worlds apart. So how do you connect those two worlds? Well, this slide shows the solution perfectly. 905WOOD engineered what they call a digital refinery to act as the bridge. Now, this isn't just about hauling junk from point A to point B. This is about intelligent orchestration. The whole system is designed to take a liability, that chaotic, potentially hazardous waste, and actually transform it into a predictable, high-value asset that the bioeconomy is hungry for. Now, what's really fascinating here is how you can actually quantify that gap. Just look at these numbers. Raw waste, it can have up to 40% moisture. The bioeconomy, it needs less than 10%. Raw waste is filled with plastics, metals, you name it. The bioeconomy demands less than 1% contamination. I mean, we're not talking about a small difference here. This is a completely different philosophy, a leap from total chaos to absolute precision. So how in the world do you bridge a gap that wide? Well, the answer starts with intelligence, but not intelligence sitting in some far-off data center. No, the intelligence needs to be right there at the source, on the muddy, chaotic construction site itself. And this is where we get into this idea of intelligence at the edge. And here it is, right in the action. This is the very first line of defense. It's an AI running locally on a phone, and it performs a visual triage of a pile of wood in under 2 seconds. Get this, it doesn't even need an internet connection. It's making that critical first call. Is this clean or is it potentially contaminated before a single piece of wood is even loaded on the truck? This is what they call the precautionary principle, but deployed right there in the field. But here's the philosophy that makes the whole thing so smart. The system is actually built on a foundation of distrust. It knows that a standard camera can be fooled. A piece of weathered wood that's been treated with arsenic can look almost identical to a harmless piece of old pine. They call this the visual fallacy. And it means the AI's first guess is just that, a guess. The whole system is designed to dig for a deeper truth. Okay, so once you have that intelligent foundation, the system starts to evolve. It's not just about catching the bad stuff anymore. It's about helping the actual human user navigate this really complex, high-stakes regulatory world. It's all about designing a user interface that actively reduces their anxiety. For instance, check out this help overlay. When a load gets flagged as high risk, the app doesn't just flash a big red rejected screen. It explains why, and it does it in a really non-accusatory way. It educates the user, saying, hey, a normal camera can't see invisible chemicals, so we need a secondary screening to find the truth. It basically validates how hard their job is instead of just blaming them. Okay, this is probably one of my favorite features. What happens when a user gets hit with, say, a $500 penalty? Well, instead of just sending an angry bill, the app turns it into a kind of game. There's a button that says, why am I being charged? And it opens up a checklist that shows the user exactly how to sort the next load better to avoid that fee. It completely transforms the app from a billing tool into a training tool. It's brilliant. And to make sure the whole system has total integrity, there's the geofenced manifesting. You absolutely cannot fake your location here. The digital manifest, which is a legal document, by the way, can only be signed and sealed when the hardware-level GPS confirms that the user is physically standing in the mud of that specific project site. This hold-to-seal mechanic makes the digital chain of custody completely ironclad. All right, this is where the story really hits its climax. This is the point where the software stops being just a passive tool and starts becoming an active, thinking agent. An agent that doesn't just see the world, it also listens to it. Let's just walk through this process, because it's amazing. First, the visual AI scans a pile of wood and says, "Yep, I'm 99% confident this is clean." But then the driver records a quick voice note saying something like, "Just tearing down an old deck." Ding! The on-device AI hears that trigger word, deck, which is super often associated with hazardous, pressure-treated wood. It immediately detects a semantic conflict between what it sees and what it hears. And here's the kicker. The audio overrides the visual, and the load gets flagged for mandatory hazardous screening. It's using two senses to find a truth that one sense alone would have missed. So if you zoom out from all these features, you start to see that there's a single, unifying design philosophy that governs this entire experience, from the hardware all the way to the software. And they call it the White Protocol. Now, this isn't just about making things look pretty and clean. This industrial minimalism is a deeply functional choice. Think about it. For a user on a messy, loud, totally distracting job site, a stark black-on-white interface with huge text actually reduces their cognitive load. In a world of industrial grime and chaos, a pristine, simple interface signals mastery and control. It's a way of saying, don't worry, the mess is contained. And really, this one slide just encapsulates the entire journey, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the raw, gritty reality of industrial chaos. And on the right, you see the outcome, clean, digital order. It perfectly visualizes the core function of this whole digital refinery. It's about imposing a new kind of logic and compliance and clarity onto a fundamentally messy, real-world problem. So the final thought to leave you with is this. 905WOOD apply this incredible combination of edge intelligence, anxiety-reducing design, and sentient logic to construction waste. But that just begs the question, what's next? What other chaotic, analog industries are just out there waiting for their own digital refinery to come along and find clarity in all that chaos?